Hello everyone, I'm Blue Carswell and this is a 2020 Polo GTI. Now I've driven over 7,000 miles in this car, so in this video I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of it as well as talking about some of the things I like and dislike about it. So yeah, let's get on with it. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. So what are we looking at then? Well, obviously this is a Volkswagen Polo GTI that is based on the 6th generation of Polo. Now this example here is finished in flash red, which although not my colour of choice, does suit the car nicely and makes it look like a GTI from a distance, because this is quite a distinctive GTI colour. Other things that make it look like a GTI are, unsurprisingly, the GTI branding that we've known to sort of love. So coming around the side we've got them, on the front we've also got a GTI badge, also got that nice pinstripe detail as well as a hexagonal grille design. Not sure how well that is being picked up on camera though. Coming down the side, 17-inch alloy wheels. They are sort of mimicking the design of the wheels you'll find on a Golf GTI. And coming around the rear we've got one more GTI badge. I do want to apologise about the state of the car. Absolutely filthy, but I just didn't see the point in cleaning it because the roads in the UK are a mess at the moment. So yeah, you've got another GTI badge there. Now as we pull out, there are a few things that separate this from a normal Polo, obviously. First and foremost, this car is 15mm lower to the ground than a standard Polo. Also benefits from unique bumpers at front and rear, extended side sills, as well as a gloss black finished rear spoiler. And yeah, I think this car looks the part, to be honest. In general, I do think that the 6th generation Polo does move the game on nicely from the generation that came before it. You know, that older generation could look a little bit dorky, and I think that this generation it does look a lot smarter. It's a nicely aggressive thing, and yeah, I think the GTI treatment really works well. Now one thing to note about this sort of pre-facelift 6th generation Polo and the GTI version is that there are two versions. There's the GTI and the GTI Plus. So what does that mean? Well, the GTI Plus is basically a spec'd up version of a GTI. Now this one in front of us is a normal GTI, it is not the GTI Plus. Now are there any easy ways to tell the two apart? Well yes, just take a quick look at the headlights and you'll see that this one has got the plain halogen bulbs, and the GTI Plus has some rather lovely LED ones. Now the LED ones also feature a detail. This thing would be in red, continuing on from this pinstripe here, and if I'm honest, they do look a little bit smarter. That's not to say that this is a bad looking car. As I've just said, I do think it does look the part, but the GTI Plus with those LED headlights is a rather lovely thing at night. With the GTI Plus things, well, on the exterior you will notice it'll have rear tints out of the factory, and on the interior it will have, well, the biggest giveaway will be the fact it has a digital display, whereas this one, I don't know what the state the interior is in at the moment, doesn't, which probably leads us on quite nicely to the interior part of this video.
Right, so to the interior then. Now as you can see, the GTI theme continues with the famous tartan seats and a GTI steering wheel. There are also some red accents throughout the cabin and they help tie everything together nicely. Now in terms of technology, you've got an 8-inch infotainment display in the middle of the dash, and surprise surprise, it is hard to pick fault with. The Volkswagen menus are easy to navigate, but most of the time you're not going to bother because you're just going to plug your phone in and make the most of either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, because they just work as you'd expect them to. Build quality is solid and overall it is a lovely place to sit, and to be honest it does feel like a remarkably grown up car to be in. I should also mention that there is plenty of storage, the driving position is good, and the seats do provide adequate support when pushing on. Now moving into the back, it does serve as a reminder that this is only a Polo at the end of the day and isn't meant to be a huge car. For some reason I found the sort of angle of attack required to get into the back a little bit tricky, and as you can see I'd perhaps struggle to describe it as spacious back there once seated. For reference, I'm 5'11" and the driver's seat is set up for me, although if I'm being honest it could go forward a click or two and I'd still be okay up front. Now in the boot there is plenty of room and the movable floor adds a nice extra dose of practicality. Right, I've just about recovered from the hypothermia I got whilst filming outside, so let's move on to this car's driving. And how does it drive? Well, I'm happy to report that this car is brilliant. The two main words I'd used, or two main phrases I'd used to describe how this thing drives are, it's fast and it's refined.
And those two things probably aren't a surprise to anybody who has ever watched a review of a Golf or a Polo or a whatever GTI in the past. But yeah, let's talk about the fast bit first. Obviously this car has a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, or maybe not obviously, depending what you know, and that means that there is absolutely plenty of performance on tap. Now I know that on paper this car might not necessarily look like a rocket ship, however let me assure you this car has absolutely bundles of performance, and in the real world I do not see why anybody would need more power, more acceleration than this car has. I think the combination of the automatic gearbox and this powertrain with its torque just make it so effortless and easy to access the performance that you can kind of do it all the time and whenever you need to. Yeah, there's absolutely loads of performance in this car, and it is great fun to throw down a B road. It does struggle for traction sometimes when it's not dry, even though it's got an electronic locking diff, but just be sensible, and yeah, you can just have loads of fun. Just lean on the torque, off we go, no problems whatsoever. I do really enjoy driving. I know some people think these GTIs can be a little bit dull, but I've not come across that. I think it's absolutely fabulous, absolutely brilliant at fulfilling its brief. You've got accessible performance everywhere, anybody can use it, it's just so easy, off you go. There we go. Beautiful. Now in terms of refinement, well that's also brilliant too. At the moment we're going down a sort of average British B road, which doesn't have a particularly good surface, so it's not particularly bad either. And yeah, this car is really comfortable. Nothing is getting into the cabin that I'd say is unacceptable. It lets you know that there's things in the road, and you know it's a GTI, so you want to have some sort of feedback into the cabin. As I mentioned in my intro, I've done 7,000 miles, or over 7,000 miles in this car. A lot of motorway miles, a lot of around town driving is included in that. And not once have I gone, this car isn't comfortable, this car isn't composed, or this ride's a bit rough. You know, I've always thought that this car strikes a perfect blend between comfort and then when you want it to be, that was a bit of a large bump there, and when you want it to be, a bit of a yob. Here we go. You see, just loads of body control, loads of performance. We'll get on the brakes there, tuck it in on the throttle, and there we go. Yeah, it's the generic GTI thing. It's just everything to everyone. 99% of the people are going to be absolutely delighted with the way this thing drives, and I for one am really impressed. I should also mention that on a cruise this car can return some really surprising miles per gallon figures. I often do sort of an hour and a half, 2 hour journeys on the motorway, and you will easily see high 40s, if not 50s, if you hit some average speed camera sections, which I think is remarkable, to be honest, for something that's got this turn of pace, but is also this sort of capable across the board. Anything else I should mention? Well, you've got some modes. You've got Sport, Eco, Normal and Individual. Personally, I'd just have it in Normal or set up an Individual. Just for reference, Sport mode will give you tighter steering, it will make that weight up a bit, it'll also give you a sharper throttle response, it will change the gearbox mapping, it will make something in the suspension firmer, I can't remember what bit it is, and it will also pump sort of fake sound into the cabin. However, like I've said, that I think just feels a bit too tense, and with my style of driving it just isn't necessary. I do have an individual mode that weights the steering, weights the steering up a bit, pumps the sound into the cabin, and I use that sometimes, as well as flicking the gearbox across and using the car in manual mode, which by the way is as responsive as you need it to be to have fun on a B road. Eco mode I've just never really bothered with. Like I say, normal mode is fine and I can get higher PG figures in that. Eco can decouple the clutch, I think, to let it coast, which would be good if this car had cruise control, however it doesn't, therefore it's a bit pointless in my eyes to use that eco mode, plus it really dulls the throttle response, which I don't like, as it can catch you napping sometimes.
So whilst on the subject of things that aren't quite so brilliant about the GTI, I should probably mention a few other things. Firstly, the long gears are great for cruising and do help the fuel economy, but they can frustrate when trying to have fun in manual mode. Also, the gearbox can be a little hard to judge and is quite jerky during low speed manoeuvres. Talking of low speed manoeuvres, when parking, for some reason the Volkswagen Polo GTI feels absolutely massive. Now I think this is down to the raked styling impacting visibility, but yeah, placing the corners when parking can be a bit of a guessing game, and this sort of coupled with the jerky gearbox does make for some tense moments. Now finally, I should mention the sound. As you can probably tell from this video, or parts of the video, the noise the car makes from the inside is just about convincing enough, but it is a shame that the introduction of a petrol particulate filter has kind of turned the car into a bit of a mute from the outside.
So how do we conclude this video then? Well, as you may have gathered, as you've watched this video, I am really impressed by the Polo GTI. When I first got it, which was last summer now, it was putting back into normal mode, I wasn't sure what to expect. I kind of knew that GTIs were supposedly the perfect all-rounder, and I think that it's pretty much a cliched but perfect way to summarise this car. Obviously, with it being the Polo, it's not quite as quick or as big as the Golf. However, I don't really think you're missing out much, if I'm honest. If you're like me and you're a 20-something with no real commitments in terms of needing a car for family, this car offers everything you could need and much more. I love the performance, I love how capable it is, and I love how refined it is. Yeah, it's been 7,000 happy miles in this car, and I'll be sad to see it go. Thank you for watching. I've been Blee. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.